It's time now for Dear Andrea.
Hello, gorgeous people. Thank you very much. Welcome aboard to the first ever Dear Andrea. This is just a test broadcast, I guess you could call it. Used to being in media many years ago. Had a few years break and looking at doing some podcasts, or doing on air a couple of years ago. This is a bit of a mishmash, I guess you could say, is the first thing. We're looking at more of a structured show sort of down the track. But it's just more of an introduction to say hello, find out a bit more about myself, expressing myself of who I am, where I'm coming from and the like, and hopefully interaction with listeners as well, as to sort of bring up subjects that people want to talk about. I'm working at the moment in my bitch's barn. It's a shed out the back. When the house was built, 6 by 4 metres, and in the last year and a half, I've been waiting for about 20 years to make my own studio, and I really got to the point that I'd had enough being inside from time to time, so I built myself a lounge room, studio, office, recording booth, and just a chill space more than anything. Watch TV, Foxtel, and all those little bits and pieces. But more than anything, I really wanted to get back and talking in media. And living in regional New South Wales, it's very difficult trying to find somewhere access that you can feel comfortable to be at. Probably one of the things, I was working in Victoria a couple of years ago and was looking at to do some work at a community radio station. And the first thing that people said was, but how could you be on air? You're calling yourself Andrea and you've got a deep voice. And I'm like, so what? I guess some of the battles of talking about in the next couple of episodes will be about as a transgender person. But one of the main things that I had yearned all through the life was to have girlfriends, gal pals. And the worst thing was, years ago, you get to your adult life and then you want to have a chat to a lady, and of course the barrier immediately comes up, and you might be in a social sort of situation, you just get in a conversation and then get told, my husband will be back soon, and a tap of the finger. And it really came to the point of working out, why was this? And one of the first things of coming out was that you started to build a good girlfriend base. And women just express what's going on in their lives. And it's amazing, some of the most loving, heartfelt, and also heartache of some of the conversations. And probably the biggest thing I could say is that most men will never get to know the real woman, because a barrier's up all the time. She's always worried he's going to try and you-know-what and all that sort of stuff. And from growing up as a young kid, I knew I was different. There were some genetic screw-ups. Still can't seem to get... And trying to find yourself and trying to be your authentic self, it becomes so difficult in life. There's so many barriers that are placed there in front of you. And many a conversation I've tried to have with family members as to what had happened to me when I was born and the like. And look, when I was in primary school, I didn't want to hang around with the boys. So I'd go to the girls, and the girls going, but you're a boy though, you're not hanging around with us. And it became so frustrating, so withdrawn. Health-wise, up the creek now. I'm in my late 40s. I'd given up on life as a teenager and was quite heartached with that because I could never be and express my real self. And that was during the 1980s. And what was even more heartbreaking was that people sort of say now, well, why didn't you do it back then? Well, goodness me, I mean, like Freddie Mercury, people say now, oh, he should have just came out. But the scoldering that would have, and, growing up and having family members, outlying saying that in very derogatory terms that gay, lesbian and transgender people are worse than pedophiles. And when you're hearing that over and over as a kid, it really becomes to a point that you think, oh my goodness, I can never find myself because everyone's going to hate me. And it was a real relief in the 1940s, working away from home and actually finding some people who were not judgmental and being able to express yourself. And then some people in the LGBTI community working in regional Victoria where I was at, that when I'd sort of came out and about, they didn't quite recognise themselves, because I usually have the joke to sort of say that that in the male form I look like Uncle Fester, and and I guess I refer that I look better as a woman. And it's amazing the conversations that you have with women, and also for a lot of girls that have been having a chat with, especially in the last sort of couple of months, and even like last year, was to talk about doing podcasts. The conversations to say, we really need to get these conversations out there. For people who may have had abuse in their life, finding that other people who are able to talk about it, not that it will go away or anything like that, the heartfelt, that everyday effect that it has, but it brings, to have like in a group sort of type session to see people are experiencing that. Probably one of the biggest things coming out was that it's amazing how many women will just blurt it out there, express what's going on in their mind, and in some regards will ask things that they probably wouldn't normally ask just their everyday girlfriends. And, like I've had some of the most amazing conversations over the years. But all those little bits and pieces aside, what I'm looking at doing is having what I call probably Dear Andrea show. I'm looking at if I can get on board with a national community radio network group to do different programming with shows, playing music, but also have a regular podcast that I can put together every week or every couple of weeks just to get the backside going, so to speak. And interaction with people who may be listening as well, and bringing up conversations. And I want it to be very open. And look, sometimes the language might be there or the subjects might be out there, but it's amazing. So many women are saying we need to talk about this, and aiming to do a lot more interviews with women. Even just the other day, actually, I was sitting in a cafe and I was chatting to a lady in her 80s, and I thought, after I left, I thought I should have recorded her. And what I'm looking at doing is having the top 5 questions to women of all different ages and aspirations in life, what annoys them about. There's plenty of those. And as well as looking at as a transgender person, is that a lot of women ask for like a translation between female to male and male to female, just trying to work out where things go. And it's wonderful that transgender people are very much like that. They're sort of like this in-between world, and that if it's to bring things closer together and bring more understanding and love and compassion. So bear with me. I hope to do some video casts. Most likely we're wearing wearing actually a wig from time to time, but usually at home is just wearing a little beanie, especially at the moment during the cold weather. And having this access to having effectively a full recording studio here at home makes it a fantastic opportunity to really get my bum in action and to put together some pieces for a Dear Andrea, and bring wonderful conversations for women, trans women, cis women, trans men, and for men as well, and anyone in between who sort of doesn't know where they fit, and feel free that the conversations that we have, there are no judgments upon people. And I think that's probably one of the greatest things as well, having no judgments, because when you get into conversations and a person knows that they're free to speak as they feel fit, and that the reward from that is absolutely fantastic.
I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all.
Well, thank you very much, and I played just a little bit of a song there, and that song was from 1991. I think it was from the movie called Switch, and it was in the early 90s. I had travelled to Sydney at the time when I was there, away from the family, and I guess it felt so naughty watching this movie where, I had no hatred being told around it, and it really started the journey but it really took another 20 years before really starting to get things going, and more than anything, starting to enjoy life. Well, thank you very much for being about and listening on the first podcast of Dear Andrea. Hope you are doing nice and well. And I also hope to be reading out some bits and pieces of, well, to bring comfort and heart wealth as well. Thank you very much for joining me. I will chat to you soon.